I'd like to call the regular session of the Harris County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, December 5th, 2023 to order. At this time, if Commissioner Andrews would give our invocation.
Thank you. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for all your many blessings. We thank you, Lord, for this beautiful county in which we live. We ask for your guidance, Lord, and your wisdom as we try to make good decisions, Lord, move forward. Let us be future focused, and we'll praise you for it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
If everyone would join me in the pledge of allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if you look at the agenda, the first item of business is the minutes of the regular session of November 21st, 2023. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion second. Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Minutes approved. Item number 2, we have citizen comments. Mr. Morgan Marlowe, citizen has requested to appear before the board to discuss agritourism language in the UDCs and community development. Mr. Marlowe has been provided with a copy of the local rules of order and advised he has 5 minutes in which to make his comments. And if y'all have noticed at your place, I put what he has typed up to read to us in front of you so that everyone would have a copy of it. Mr. Marlowe?
I want you to ask yourself how we got here and what it takes for you to make actual, real change. When we were here in October, I asked for help to be able to connect power to a concession stand for my pumpkin patch and corn maze. We were all told by Brian and Randy and the attorney that the only way that could happen was to have a text amendment that went back through the entire process, starting with the Planning Commission in November and then to the commissioners in December now for your approval. Randy went so far as to tell you that there was a solution presented that would allow me to hook up power, but it required me to disconnect the concession stand, which we all realized was not really a solution. No other solutions were offered at the time. I asked for the restrictions for corn mazes and pumpkin patches to be removed. How can anyone have a corn maze without popcorn, which you need power for? That was a point made by y'all. Several of you stated that you thought the restrictions had been removed when the UDC was passed this time last year. They obviously were not. In October, I stated that I've been trying to get these restrictions removed for 5 years by dealing with Brian and then with Lee. Randy wants to handle with the department head level. This situation is a prime example of why that does not happen. The commissioner specifically asked for the restrictions on corn mazes and pumpkin patches to be removed and a master plan process be created for agritourism similar to resort zoning. The attorney even asked for clarification at the end of the meeting and the request was repeated. I went to the November Planning Commission and I had to speak because none of those changes were presented to the Planning Commission. It's ironic that all the other ones you asked for were, but not that one. The Planning Commission was not even aware that you had asked for those changes. Regardless of what anyone's opinion is of the job Lee Walton did, and mine is not very good, he can only make the changes that Brian and Randy present to him. Brian did not present any of those changes. When I asked why those were not made, they both stated that they were not necessary, and under the master plan concept, the restrictions do not apply. There's 3 things. That's not what you asked for. You asked for the restrictions to be removed from corn mazes and pumpkin patches and to create a master plan process for agritourism similar to resort. Number 2, nowhere in the UDC did it state that the restrictions don't apply under a master plan concept. And number 3, there is no master plan concept for agritourism laid out in the UDC, at least not a very clear one that I can find. When I made that case to the Planning Commission, they acknowledged and came up with the amendment that you'll see tonight. And while I appreciate their effort, it does not capture the intent of your request. When I asked Brian if they decided to ignore your request and unilaterally made a decision that the master plan concept allowed me to do what I wanted, why had no one contacted me? His sole response was that he could not run my business for me. Never a more true statement has he made. When questioned about housing, since the restrictions don't apply under the master plan process, and I brought it up last time, Brian stated that housing would require me to apply for cord zoning. If there are no restrictions and I can present proposals through a master plan, why does that make me change zonings? Housing is one of the first questions anyone asks when they apply for agritourism insurance. It's also listed in other counties' agritourism ordinances. Look at Troup counties. It comes down to these questions. Why didn't Brian present your request to the planning commission, and why was I not presented with this alternative to get the power connected in September or October? Were Brian and Randy unaware that there was another way to get the power connected, even if it is ambiguous, or did they intentionally withhold the information? I'm not sure which one's worse. The first choice makes them incompetent, and the second one means I was targeted. I have no issue submitting a master plan, but I'm not doing it through this community development the way they're structured now. I think it's been proven that they cannot conduct themselves professionally when it comes to Oakhurst. Think back to the bathroom incident, the trespass and stove incident, and now this. I think 3 strikes is enough. I'll address what I think the changes need to be when we get to the open hearing concerning this. But right now, I'm asking you to look at the conduct of Brian and Randy and ask yourselves if these are the right people for these critical positions in Harris County. We need someone in community development that understands what we are actually trying to accomplish here, whose first response is not no and has some sense of customer service. We need someone as a county manager that will actually manage and provide leadership and direction. Right now, both positions are lacking. They're lacking people who have an unbiased approach that allows business to operate in Harris County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to new business. Item number 3 is the bid award for the Public Works facility. Mr. County Manager?
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, again, this is one of many buildings we have built in the last several months. We have built, don't forget, the solid waste building, the waterworks building, the fire training center. We're building the new EMS station. We're building the Man of War, we finished the Man of War Trail and a bunch of other buildings, so in the last 18 months. So county manager has been busy managing the county and all of these resources that the citizens need. This is another one. As a great example of Harris County working together is the bid award for a new public works facility. This year's approved budget contains about $3.5 million, $300 from SPLOST 2019, and $500,000 from T-SPLOST 2023 to construct a new public works facility consisting of 4,900 square feet office building and a 6,200 square foot open equipment storage structure on 7.2 acres of land within the Hamilton Business Park. The project was designed by Heck Birdshaw Architects, and the site was graded by Public Works Department to reduce expenses. On the bid deadline date of December 1st of this year, 4 bids were received as follows. The low bid was Headley Construction from Noonan at $3,198,000. The high bid was McElroy at a Zebulon of $3,925,221, with 2 bids in between. The low bid was Headley Construction with a bid of $3,198,000. However, with unfavorable results from Headley Construction on the recent waterworks building and the current EMS volunteer fire station building, such as quality of construction and unresponsiveness to concerns and repeated requests for documents, Headley Construction, in my opinion, is not the most responsive bidder. Therefore, county staff is recommending the bid be awarded to the second low bidder, Principal Construction, for $3,499,000, a difference of $301,000. Also, county staff is requesting a small contingency amount of $100,000 to be included for unforeseen issues that may arise during construction. Alan Udi of Heck Birdshaw can be at this meeting via phone to answer any questions the board may have. So a motion vote are needed to award the bid to Principal Construction in the amount of $3,499,000 plus $100,000 contingency, if needed, for a total of $3,599,000, and authorize the county manager and county clerk to execute all necessary documents. If approved, the project could begin in January and be completed during November of next year.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
All right.
Go ahead. Go. Well, is Alan here? I mean, is he on the phone?
He could be on the phone.
Get him on the phone.
Okay.
While we're waiting for that, can I ask one question? So the 3,569,000 minus the 70,000, did you explain the 70,000 difference there between the
Okay.
349?
In the bidding world, the bid was 3,569,000, okay? And on the outside of their bid package, they used to deduct $70,000. So that's common in bid world, so that it would equate to 3.499 million.
So is this Troup County or is this Harris County? Principal,
They're out of LaGrange.
so they're out of Troup.
Yes.
So what is the percentage that we give, let's say, for Harris County?
3%.
It's 3%. Okay.
Yeah, it ain't enough. I did that math too. It ain't there.
Scott, did you have a question that he could answer while he's trying to get him on the phone? Okay.
Hello?
Hey, Alan, Randy, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good.
Hey, Kate, you're on speakerphone at a commission meeting, and we got a few questions for you.
All right.
This is Alan Udi of Heck Birdshaw.
Hey, Alan, this is Greg Gant, Harris County Commission. I had a couple of questions, I guess, about the process in general, and I don't know a whole lot, so I just wanted, but I've made a couple of calls to try to learn a little bit more about your business and whatnot. But, you know, Randy has a problem with the way Headley Construction did their previous jobs with us. And I addressed that issue with someone in the industry. They talked about a RFQ, request for, what's the Q stand for?
Qualifications.
Qualifications. Alan, what do you think about that approach, and does it, in general, explain it to us and give us some pros and cons for it?
All right, Randy, it was breaking out, in and out, the sound. Can you kind of recap that? I heard the pre-qualifications mentioned.
No, not, it was a request for a proposal.
No, it's not. What do you think about the principle of using an RFQ for
You there? Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Okay, Randy, can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear it all.
Alan, can you hear me?
I can just barely.
Ask him to, Randy. Ask him to explain what an RFQ is
Explain what an RFQ is
and give us the pros and cons.
and the pros and cons.
Request for qualifications?
Yes.
So what the pros and cons are, well, obviously you get to know about the different contractors that you're sending this out to. You can find out about their history on projects similar sized. You can find out about the people in the organization and who's going to work on your project. And you can find out about their finances in the long run since their company has been in existence.
Those are positives? Are those considered positives?
Are those considered positives?
Because he said cons.
Absolutely. The more you can find out about who you're going to be working with, the better.
So what are the weaknesses of that approach?
What are the weaknesses of an RFQ?
Well, you don't know, I guess, the exact team that you're going to be working with. You don't know how much they're going to price your project at that point when you're asking for qualifications. So you don't know the important things, how much it's going to cost and who actually is going to work on the project.
So does an RFQ allow us to bypass in advance people like Headley?
Yes, it would. Well, obviously, I mean, if you have history with a contract already that you have issues with, you would want to send it out to a select group of contractors, maybe RFQ out to the ones that you think are the best of the lot. But when you open it up to anybody, it's impossible to eliminate anybody from that list, whether you've gotten good, positive results or negative.
So do you think that Harris County? Is that a route that you would, what do you think about Harris County using that kind of route?
An RFQ out to select contractors?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because that eliminates the groups that may not be able to do the best job for a given size of a project. So yeah, I think that would be a good idea in the future.
Okay.
Be-
All right, well, that's my question. Well, also, I don't think, I've heard that in the past we've used the clause liquidated damages for some of these projects.
Yes.
I don't think, did we use, two questions. Did we use liquidated damages in this process?
We are not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
And Randy actually suggested that early on. I discouraged it only because often when we have liquidated damages in a contract, you'll set up right from the get-go with the contractor sort of an adversarial condition because they know that is in there and holding over their head that anytime they ask a question of a client or architect, they're going to be looking at how long it took you to respond. And if it takes you any length of time, they're going to use that to qualify why it's taking them longer to do a project. It
Right.
just sets up a sort of a negative sense going through the project. So that's why I usually try to avoid that.
Yep, that's one of the criticisms that I've heard, frankly, is that because of the liquidated damages clause, some of the, I don't know what the right words to choose, I have to be careful how I choose the words, but some very successful companies choose to not bid on our projects because of clauses like liquidated damages.
Yes, or they might pad their number, assuming there might be some.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you might go beyond their schedules.
So you're not a fan of liquidated damages, in other words?
I'm not. I've had clients that put it in there, but that never use it. So I don't know if you don't want to use it, I don't think you should put it in there.
Yep. Okay, well, that's all I got.
Anyone have any other questions, Susan?
Randy, did you discuss with our attorney the reasons why you believe that Headley is not a responsive bidder?
Yes,
Did he agree with you?
yes.
That those were reasons that you could use to go to the next lowest bidder?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone have any more questions?
Explain the $100,000 again. I mean, we're budgeted for whatever.
Okay. So the bid amount is $3,499,000. I'm asking for $100,000 contingency if needed to fund unforeseen things that usually happens during a major construction project. Without a contingency, I would have to come back to the board for every budget amendment. So I mean, it could be a budget amendment of $900 because they forgot a mirror. It could be a budget amendment of $1,000 because they forgot some hardware. So I could use that money to keep the project going timely without having to come back to the board for additional monetary authorization.
If we authorize that contingency, can we get a list of what those OJC job cost overruns could be on the JCOs?
It would be change orders.
It'd be JCOs.
Yeah, it could be anything. I mean, change orders or additions, things forgot, stuff like that. But they're usually nickels and dimes, you know, like, I think in the EMS building, they had the shower tile go up to X feet, where it needs to go up to Y feet. So that Y feet would cost extra. So this money would be used for extra. Without this money, I would have to stop the project, come to the board, and ask for more money authorization. So the project stops until the board can approve it, and then the project can start.
Well, I don't see how that could happen.
Right.
When you run out of money, that's at the very end of the project. So it's not like there's something going on halfway through it, you're gonna have to stop and come to us.
Or, okay, that was an example. Another example is, before the building gets out of the ground, they could find rock. And it cost $5,000 to pull the rock out and put suitable soil in there. That's another example that's commonplace.
But why would you have to stop at that? Are you saying you would have to stop at that point and come to us and ask for a
Well,
exemption?
if the
or
board
whatever?
only authorized $3,499,000, and that's the cost of the project,
Yeah, but the cost of that project's not gonna happen towards till the end, then we'll figure out how close we are to hitting the budget or not. Why do you wanna start by creating a concession right out of the gate? I'd rather just wait and see. Personally, I'd rather just wait and see as the project develops, how it turns out. Are you saying, do most projects come in over budget?
some come in under, some come in over. It's just,
What happens, it's great to know, what happens when they come in under budget in general? How does that happen?
we don't spend all the money.
So they bid, in this example, they bid 3.5 million, they might only figure out ways to spend 3.2 million?
That's right.
So I just don't think we should start with a foot in the hole.
We've done this on all the other projects that we've done the last 24 months. So this is just a
Because of
standard
inflation
thing.
then, or why we've done that?
Typically, building projects have
To
contingency.
fund unforeseen things. Like the EMS building, for example, going back to that, it forgot to put motors on the doors that go up and down, okay? There's chains, but they forgot the motors. Well, that was $600 per door, okay? That's a couple $1,000s. So this money could go toward that without me having to come back to the board for other authorization. Again, this is a common practice in major construction projects. If the board doesn't want to do it, we don't have to. It's just
The
an
board may
idea.
want to do it. I'm not in favor of it, but the board may want to do it. I'll just say that. I just think we're supposed
That's
to,
what I'm recommending.
I know, I think we're supposed to wait and see how the project goes before we start conceding cost loss.
And it will always be, if it's needed. If it's not needed, it will never be used. And we'll come back to the
It-
county.
We
Alan,
would always recommend a contingency.
I'll say that again.
So we would always recommend the owner have a contingency because we are not perfect and the contractor is not perfect.
Yeah, but that can always be offset along the way. But then again, I'm just one voice.
But if it comes at a needed vote. If it comes at a needed vote, like Randy's talking about, then it slows the process down.
It won't slow the process down until the project's almost over.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's done in major business. I'm very familiar with it, because I've already asked that same question to people I know in the construction business when I was reading it. Anybody have any other questions? We need a motion to approve, or a motion to deny, or a motion to award without the 100,000, or a motion to award with the 100,000?
Make a motion, it's gonna be for the 3.499 mil. I wanna make the motion that we, how do I say this? That we accept principal construction of LaGrange for a total cost of $3,499,000.
Read that and leave the 100,000 out.
Okay. For a total of $3,499,000, and to authorize the county manager and the county clerk to execute all necessary documents related to this project.
All right, I will second his motion to get it to the discussion phase. So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
I don't ever know of a public, construction project that hasn't had a contingency fund in 40 years that I've been dealing with public construction. I understand what you're saying. A lot of times that 3.499 million is broken down into budgeted items. So if you have so much for clearing the land and you hit rock, that budgeted item goes over, that's when you use your contingency. And so, I don't see a problem for it, but I would like, so that it makes everybody feel a little more comfortable, Randy, perhaps you could tell us at another meeting which one of our projects that have been completed have come in under budget and which one had to use contingency, and that might make it feel a little bit better. That's all I have to say.
All right, we have a motion And we had a second. Any more discussion on that? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? All right, motion is denied.
I make a motion that we approve the bid to Principal Construction in the amount of $3,499,000 with a $100,000 contingency if needed, and approve for the county manager and the clerk to execute necessary documents related to the project.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries. Mr. County Manager, you have exactly 4.5 minutes to try to do the project updates.
I'll do it in 4. Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, a quick update of the program of work. Again, these are the projects the county is working on. Number 6, continue and conduct the SPLOST referendum. That project has been, all the paperwork has been concluded. Everybody has signed on the dotted line. We're simply waiting for the election next March 12th, 2024, to continue the SPLOST for the next 6 years. Election March 12th, 2024. Number 7, complete the dehumidification system at the community center. That project should be completed late this month. Number 15, construction of the new EMS volunteer fire department. That project is almost completed. It opens operational December 10th, ribbon cutting in late January. So again, that's another construction project we're just finishing up. Number 19, a new citizen request management system. See-Click Fix software is on our website. So far, Public Works, Waterworks, Solid Waste, and Recreation has been added to the See-Click Fix software, and more departments are being added. We're advertising that as much as we can to the citizens to obtain their complaints and get them resolved as soon as possible. The LMIG resurfacing program, that's going to start in January to repay 4.1 miles of Ripshin Road using state LMIG funds. Number 26, the new Public Works facility, the board approved that tonight. It should begin construction in January, be finished by November at the very latest. Number 30, an observation tower at Ellerslie Park. Construction construction has begun by pouring the footers, and that has been completed. The installation should be in late December, early January for the observation tower at Ellerslie Park, funded primarily by a private company and the county. Number 32, Pine Mountain Valley Park development. The ownership is completed. Surveys are being conducted to obtain citizen input on what they would like to see in the Pine Mountain Valley Park. And then we'll prepare a master plan of that park, show it off, get it approved, and then start implementing that master plan. Again, keep going. Number 47, the airport runway lighting, signage, and wind cone rehabilitation along with AWAS. The equipment is getting delivered on site, so that should be starting probably late December, early January for those airport improvements. Again, that's it in a nutshell. It is almost 7 o'clock, but we'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Anyone have any questions about the program of work?
Hey, Alan.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go now.
I would like to open the public hearing. If everyone would please sign your affidavit sheets and pass them to your right. The rezoning special use application, public hearing procedures. We'll have the call to order. We'll have the reading of the application. We'll have the applicant or his or her representative will be recognized to present, explain the request. Commissioners may ask questions of the individual during this time. Individuals in favor of the application will be permitted to speak upon recognition by the chairman after raising their hand, and each person is to provide their name and address. Individuals in opposition to the application will be permitted to speak upon recognition by the chairman after raising their hand, and each person is to provide their name and address. Upon the completion of comments of those in opposition to the application, the applicant or his or her representative will be given the opportunity to make summary remarks, rebuttals, and/or final comments. Upon the completion of remarks, rebuttals, or final comments by the applicant or his or her representative and final comments, questions of the commissioners, chairman will close the public hearing. No further input from the applicant or his or her representatives, opponents, or other individuals, and then action will be taken on that application. And I believe, let me get to the right one. First one is item number 6. The applicant is Scott O'Neill. Location is Hamilton Pleasant Grove, Hamilton, Georgia, 3.65 acres, map 58, parcel 32, land lot 163, land district 21. Rezoning from A1, agricultural forestry, to C4, highway commercial. Present use is not applicable, or not acceptable, not applicable. That would be the correct term. Proposed use, storage, and future growth of existing tree and landscape maintenance business beside it. The Planning Commission recommendation approval with the staff recommendations and the added conditions that the vegetation buffer be 10 feet. The conditions are as follows. 1, future property use under C4 must be consistent with the applicant's stated intent to use the property for expansion of tree and landscape maintenance business purposes and associated storage. 2, the adjacent residential property to the south should be screened by maintaining a 10-foot vegetative buffer along the southern property line adjacent to the neighboring property to the extent possible. 3, parking area for vehicles or equipment or other than vehicles parked for less than 72 hours shall be screened by opaque fencing and landscaping. The staff recommendations is the approval of the request to rezone the subject property from R1 to C4 with the following conditions. Future property use under C4 must be consistent with the applicant's stated intent to use the property for expansion of tree and landscape maintenance business purposes and associated storage. 2, the adjacent residential property to the south should be screened by maintaining a vegetative buffer along the southern property line adjacent to the neighboring property to the extent possible. 3, parking areas for vehicles or equipment other than vehicles parked for less than 72 hours shall be screened by the opaque fencing and landscaping. At the end of this public hearing, we will need a motion and a vote. At this time, if Mr. O'Neill would like to come up and speak on this.
Good afternoon. Pretty much, I think you've summed it up. We have a landscaping business here local. We've had it for about 15 years, born and raised here. We've grown it. We've got about 25 employees. The property we currently have is kind of narrow and long. We had an opportunity the neighbor on the south side gave us a call up and said, you know, we'd always said if you ever decide to sell it, we'd love to get it, future growth. Had the opportunity to come up to be able to do that. And through the process, we've talked to the lady that property butts up on the south side, a couple other neighbors, they're all supportive of it. And again, we've grown, so on the north end where our parking is, there's really no future growth there because we're already kind of full. So on the southern end is kind of our only opportunity to do anything. So right now, we'd love to start buying some things in bulk like topsoil and things like that. That could save us even more money, but we're limited on our space. Not sure if you've all been by there or not, but take a ride by there and you see what I'm saying. But we do keep it up. It's a nice building, nice piece of property, and just looking for the future growth and hopefully maybe hire a few more employees and help the county.
All right.
You guys
Anyone
have any
have any questions? Not to cut you off.
I'm glad that property being used.
All right. Thank you, Mr. O'Neill.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this rezoning? Anyone here in favor? Going twice? Third time? Is there anyone here in opposition of this rezoning? Anyone here in opposition? Going twice, 3 times? Seeing no opposition, Mr. O'Neill, does not look like you need to do a rebuttal, so I will close this portion of the public hearing. And I will make the motion that we rezone this property from A1 to C4 Highway Commercial with all the planning commission recommendations and staff recommendations. And if y'all want, I'll read them all out again, but I think I've read them enough that everybody knows what I've said. So I will make that motion that we approve this.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion second. Any discussion on that? All in favor? All right, motion carries. And I ride by it every day, and it does look very nice. All right, I will open up the public hearing. On item number 7, applicant is Chad and Taylor Buckley, 286 Aberlin Lane, Ellerslie, Georgia, 22.337 acres, map 84, parcel 112A, land lot 126 and 127, land district 18th. The rezoning from R1 low-density residential to A1 agricultural forestry. Present use is land. Proposed use, house and homestead. Planning Commission recommendations, approval. Staff recommendations, approval to be used for residential and limited agricultural purposes with the following conditions. The extent of agricultural use on the property shall be in keeping with the applicant's stated intent, including limited poultry and livestock only as appropriate for a residential homestead, not a commercial scale agricultural operation. At the end of this public hearing, we will need a motion and a vote. If you'd like to go ahead and.
Hey, my name's Chad Buckley, live at 286 Aberley Lane. Recently moved here, and we bought this property in hopes that we could have, kind of enjoy the 22 acres. And there's some limitations that R1 has that won't allow us to have some chickens or some meat rabbits outside of chickens is what we're planning on having. So we're looking for approval to rezone to A1 so we can legally do that.
Anyone have any questions?
How many chickens are you expecting, and are we allowed to have in A1?
I'm planning on having probably 25 to 30. I would say we had about 25 to 30 where we moved from on 10 acres, and they really don't take up much of a footprint.
Roosters, a few?
Maybe 1 or 2, but they really don't get along with each other. So once they get up to a certain
So
growing
they say-
size, they become a nuisance or food.
All right, anyone? So,
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you have 22 acres, and I know that we're limited to homesteading, but on 22 acres, you might want to have a cow and a bull and have a baby and sell the baby. That would be commercial. But on 22 acres, I don't know why we would limit that.
That was just my plan. We're not planning on raising cows to sell. Let's say I have 3 young boys, and pretty much we're gonna be consuming
You're gonna eat
as
those, everything
much
you
as
grow?
we can. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just don't want to limit, on 22 acres, I don't think we should limit it to, no commercial, but
I got you. Yes, ma'am.
you know what I'm saying?
all right,
I mean,
anyone
like
have any
we'll
other
sell
questions?
eggs. You gonna sell eggs with 25 chickens?
I don't plan on it. I mean, we go
That's
We go
25
through a
eggs a
lot.
day.
through a
lot.
lot of eggs.
Okay. So you're satisfied with with the recommendations that are here?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if we have no more questions, you can have a seat.
Okay.
And, is there anyone here to speak in favor? Anyone here to speak in favor? Going twice? 3 times? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Anybody speak in opposition? Going twice? 3 times? All right, does not look like you need to do any rebuttal. I will close this public hearing. We need a motion and vote for this rezoning.
I make the motion that we approve the rezoning from R1 to agriculture as requested
With the staff recommendations.
with staff recommendations.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, motion carries. All right, I will open up the next public hearing. That's item number 8. Applicant is Matt Avery, 600 feet southwest at the intersection of Teal Circle and Georgia Highway 219, 6.6 acres, map 16, parcel part 49, land lot 64 and 65, land district 19. Rezone from R1 low density residential to C4 highway commercial. Present use is a farm. Proposed use, office and commercial use of building. Approval of the staff recommendations and the added conditions that the vegetative buffer be 10 feet. The conditions are as follows. This is from the Planning Commission. 1, future property use under C4 must be consistent with the applicant's stated intent to use the property in existing 10,000 square foot building for commercial and office use. Specified as operation of a tree care and maintenance business with parking for business vehicles and equipment. 2, the adjacent residential property to the north should be screened by establishing and maintaining a 10-foot vegetative buffer along the northern property line adjacent to the neighboring property to the extent possible. 3, parking areas for vehicles or equipment other than vehicles parked for less than 72 hours shall be screened by opaque fencing and landscaping. Staff recommendations. Approval with the following conditions. 1, future property use under C4 must be consistent with the applicant's stated intent to use the property in existing 10-foot square foot building for commercial and office use, specified as operation of a tree care and maintenance business with parking for business vehicles and equipment. The adjacent residential property to the north should be screened by establishing and maintaining a vegetative buffer along the northern property line adjacent to the neighboring property to the extent possible. 3, parking area for vehicles or equipment other than the vehicles parked for less than 72 hours should be screened by opaque fencing and landscaping. At the end of this public hearing, a motion and vote are needed after the public hearing. Is Mr. Avery here to speak on this? Or is anyone here to speak on this? Do we have anybody in favor of this? Anybody in favor? All right, third time. Anybody in favor? All right, anybody in opposition? Anybody in opposition? Third time, anybody in opposition? All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing. A motion and a vote is needed for this rezoning.
I'll make the motion to rezone from R1 low density to C4 highway commercial with the conditions set forth by the Planning Commission and by the staff. I'll make that motion.
All right. I'll second that motion. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor? The motion carries. All right, I'll open up the next public hearing, which is item number 9. Applicant Mark Strozer, location 8010 Georgia Highway 315, Catala, Georgia, rezone 8 acres, map 49, parcel part 51, land lot 44, land district 19, rezone from A1 agricultural forestry to R1 low density residential, present use vacant, proposed use residential. Planning Commission recommendation was approval, staff recommendation was approval. A motion and vote are needed after the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak on this?
Good evening, I'm Mark Strozer. I'm representing Greystone Lands, and they would like to rezone this 8 acres to be able to sell it as R1.
Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Please state your name and address.
Jim Moore, 324 High Note, here in Catala. Me and my wife wish to purchase the land, just to be able to pass down to our son and just to keep it wooded.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that'd like to speak in favor? Anyone else? Third time, anyone else? All right, is there anyone in opposition? Anyone in opposition? Third time, anyone in opposition? I don't believe you need to do a rebuttal since the only speaker was in favor, unless you'd like to. All right, I will close this public hearing. And a motion and a vote is needed for this rezoning.
I'll make the motion that we approve the rezoning from A1 to R1 for map 49, parcel 51, land lot 44, land district 19.
All right, I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. All right. I'll open up this public hearing. Item number 10, the county's Unified Development Code, UDC, was adopted and approved at the November 1, 2022 regular meeting. It was anticipated that there would be changes made to the UDC from time to time as issues were discovered or realized. Approximately 85% of the changes being requested are due to House Bill 1405 related to state zoning procedural law. The public hearing before the Planning Commission was held on Wednesday, November 15, 2023. The Planning Commission has recommended approval of the requested changes along with some additional language for clarification. A public hearing has been advertised to be held at tonight's meeting. A motion and vote are needed to approve the recommended text amendments to the Unified Development Codes, Article 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, and 12. At this time, if y'all would like to come up and explain.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm going to keep my words brief because my voice is not great tonight. As you just described very well, the majority of these Unified Development Code text amendments are due to a state law that was passed that affects the state zoning procedures law. So after consultations with the county attorney, review of what some other counties have done in response to this, it's somewhat of an unclear picture overall, what was intended by the state legislature when this happened, but we have responded with the research and what seemed to us to be logical steps to comply with the zoning procedures law. So most of the proposed text amendments, particularly in Article 11, are about that, and they have to do with notification for different types of actions, variances in particular. They have to do with administrative reviews and approvals, actions, in most cases, or in all cases identified here, shifting approval authority from administrative level to the normal process of planning commission and board approval. And a couple other factors, including an added section titled Title V Review, which again has to do exclusively and specifically with compliance with the new provisions of the zoning procedures law. Since this was, in the time since this was last brought before you, we did have some additional discussions with the county attorney and made a few revisions, mainly to wording in those sections. So I'll be happy to review the wording of any of those proposed changes in specific. On other articles, moving beyond that, the other 15 or 20% of these changes, in Article 2, which is the article that deals with uses, The way that the Unified Development Code was designed was with this very long and detailed uses table, principal and accessory uses table. And there always has been and will continue to be the intent for that to be updated as time goes along, recognizing that new and different uses come about. People are creative with land use and business use ideas and so forth. So the recommended text amendments under Article 2 have to do with adding uses and making sure that it's clear how these uses, for example, personal care uses, motor vehicle towing and wrecker services, clarification, separating surface and subsurface mining uses. Some of these things, these needs have been realized through cases that have come before you in recent months where it's determined that, yeah, the Unified Development Code could have been more clear about this particular circumstance. So we're making and proposing those changes. Be glad to look at any of those specific Article 2 recommendations. Article 3, which is where we have special and additional factors, the agritourism modification that was mentioned earlier tonight, the clarification was added by the Planning Commission at their meeting to clarify the intent of the agritourism master plan approach. And then also, as discussed previously, a farm dinners modification was made. I'm sure there'll be questions, so I'll respond to questions regarding agritourism. We added a section to address cluster mailbox units. So this has been a requirement for not a very long time, but some time now, by the Postal Service, that new subdivision developments may not have individual standard mailboxes in each yard. Postal Service will only allow cluster mailbox unit development or facilities for new developments. So the county's code really did not have standards to address that. That's been added to provide for the specifics, process, location for cluster mailbox units. And it references and is coordinated with the Postal Service's standards and approach for this. I won't promise that there won't still be some lack of clarity about this, because developers all over the state and I think all over the country are continuing to, scratch their heads about what the post office requires and allows and doesn't allow. But we're doing our best to stay up to speed with those requirements here. And then in Article 4, we've made a few really minor revisions concerning setbacks, which are really clarifications. For example, height change to allow 20 feet instead of 15 feet. So these are minor calibrations that we're realizing are needed. Article 5, again, that's what governs our subdivision process, minor subdivisions, major subdivisions. So we've changed wording, and this came from a Planning Commission recommendation, changed wording to clarify that a minor subdivision action via the family minor subdivision process does not obligate a receiving family member to build a house on a parcel. The language was a bit confusing in that respect, so we added that first one, number 15, to clarify that. Also related, we've changed the minimum lot size from 3 acres to 2 acres, which was discussed in previous meetings, and a few other changes there. And I think a couple of items under Article 12, which again relate to the standards for approval and administrative approval, again shifting approval from administrative level, community development director, to Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners process. So really, after these revisions, there's very few circumstances, if any, where approval of any zoning related action is not actually ultimately made here. all zoning-related actions will funnel through to the Board of Commissioners, no matter how minor.
All right, so that's the question we were briefly touched on outside, about this entire UDC, just in theory, if there's situation that someone's asking for permission, or they're looking for guidance in the code here.
Yeah.
And if it's not there, if I know it's very detail oriented, and I think that's not necessarily a blessing, I think that's a curse personally, but anyway, if it's not addressed in this code, then does that mean you can do it, or does that mean you cannot do it?
Depends on what you're talking about, but if we're talking about, usually you're talking about uses and the uses table. Is it a permitted use or is it not a permitted use?
Okay, we'll go with that.
Right.
If I'm asking for, if I'm looking to do something, I go to this code, it's not there.
Yeah, so if you're looking for,
nowhere.
if you're saying, I want to open a new widget shop, and it's the Widget XL, it's the
Yep,
different,
and
the different new kind of widget.
history, in the
yeah.
universe of all codes,
Right.
anywhere, there's no precedent.
Right.
No
right.
precedent. In
So-
that case, can you do it or can you not do it?
So the table lists permitted uses. So if it's not listed or close to listed on the table, then it's excluded.
So this
and
is
then
an
there's a different
exclusionary code,
process.
not an inclusionary code.
Right, the two different types, that's a good question. This code and zoning approach continues to follow what's known technically as the Euclidean approach to zoning, which has to do with definitions of different types of uses and identification of which zones uses can be in as a primary use and as an accessory use. A completely different approach to zoning is to almost entirely ignore uses and say everything's based on design standards or performance standards or form-based codes. So there are some communities that have thrown out the old way of zoning and said, we're simply gonna, you can put whatever you want to in a building as long as the building's design, shape, envelope, et cetera, is consistent with standards. That works in some city contexts. Miami did this, for example. So if you go to certain neighborhoods in Miami, it really doesn't matter what the use is as long as the form is consistent with the requirement for that neighborhood or particular district. That is much more difficult to successfully implement, in my opinion, in a county context where you don't have the density and really the urban fabric where it's more of a rural setting. So back to the approach. If someone comes forth with a proposed use, our first approach is to look for anything in this long table that seems like a close parallel to that use. And if we can assess it and look at the federal guidance, which is the NAICS code, and make a strong, reasonable connection, then we can sometimes make an equivalence and save process. If it's just no way to do that, then the approach is a text amendment option, where an applicant, an individual property owner, whoever, can propose a text amendment. And in the case of uses, it's as simple as we propose adding new Widget XL Factory as a use, and that it be permitted in M1, M2, C2, et cetera. And that comes before you as a planning commission, and then you as a text amendment. And then once approved, that gives an option for new uses. And I would expect, as we're bringing some new uses before you or difference in uses now, a year after the code was adopted, I would expect, almost every year, if we're really tracking, we'll be identifying new needs to update that part of the code to keep it current. Sir.
So our original thing is, if it's not in there, we're just gonna say no.
Well, no, I think if it's not in there, first we're gonna, again, talking about uses, and the UDC has a lot of different components to it, as you recognize, but keeping it to uses, I think I'd fairly speak for the department's policy. If it's not in there word for word, the first thing we're gonna do is look for something that's a close match and analyze it and see if, what's proposed is a close derivation of something that's already in there. If it's clearly not, then the option, as opposed to asking for a rezoning, the option is to ask for a text amendment, which follows the same process, you know, proposed amendment, planning commission review, board approval, public hearings, et cetera.
So if we have to get to a text amendment, or the process is to get to a text amendment, wouldn't it be faster to have some kind of variance or something, request to come in first before the text amendment? Because that's, you know, I mean, we're talking about two public meetings. We're talking about, I mean, that's a, you know, that's a long time to be able to get that through. I look at these as individual case based. I'm not sure exactly how that wording needs to go, but I don't want to be automatically a no to this, because, I mean, we see a lot of different things that are popping up in the, in the state and in agritourism in itself that we've never had before. So I, kind of like to look at that as an individual case based, not just say, hey, look, blanket it as a no. Is there a way that we could look at that as like a variance kind of a process while we're considering that for a text amendment? I mean, it could be something we want to add that we just didn't see or foresight to see, or it's a new, evolution of agritourism.
Well, one legal trick to variance is that it's not legal per state code, at least, I don't know beyond that. It's not legal to use the variance approach for anything that's use-based. Variance is applied to dimensions, if you need a 10-foot setback instead of the required 20-foot setback, that's a variance circumstance.
Yeah, well, something of the sort, not necessarily
Right.
have to be variance, but.
But on the topic of you mentioned agritourism, on that topic, the intent of providing for and encouraging a master plan approval approach to agritourism was really to allow that extra level of flexibility that's appropriate there. So in that context, we kept all the specific previously identified agritourism potential uses, corn maze, et cetera. But then we added the master plan approach. And it's analogous to your planned unit development approach. So for a residential development, if you don't want to follow the strict R1 or R2 standards, you can approach it as a planned unit development, which says, I'm going to produce an alternative master plan. It's got to meet, requirements and follow process. But the zoning approval is basically based on that master plan for that property. And that's the same intended approach for agritourism. With the difference being agritourism actions, uses, are accessory uses on a farm. They're not the primary use, which again is intended to, add flexibility. You don't have to, you can do multiple things on the property. You can have your farm, you can have your residence, you can use the residence as a short-term vacation rental. You can do, a number of things, plus either with individual special use approvals or under a master plan, you can do various agritourism activities and have associated facilities as accessory uses.
Right. Only thing I was looking at is something we could do to kind of expedite some of the process, because if we do have to go to a text amendment and we have to get it approved and through the public process, that is kind of a pain to come through, especially if you're looking at season, last minute, whatever. But I was just trying to see if there's a different approach to that.
Understood.
Well, in looking at Article 3,
Yes, sir.
and I know that we have we're rewording where it says, the intent of agritourism master plan approaches is that an approval agritourism master plan for a farm shall determine for allowing agritourism use and conditions of use. And then you look over at where you have changed that under C, the minimum lot size 5 acres, that's A, general minimum standards. B, an applicant may also specify a particular use that falls under agritourism in addition to those listed in this section. For example, restroom facilities in a variety of formats may be included. C, a master plan approach that includes multiple agritourism uses on a farm is encouraged. In order to follow this approach, an approved agritourism master plan is required. Agritourism uses and associated facilities included in an approved master plan shall determine the allowable and uses and conditions of use. Applicants proposing multiple agritourism uses shall follow the requirements of section 39-10. Following the approval of an agritourism master plan, an applicant may choose this timing to implement agritourism and use approval in the master plan. Why could we not just make agritourism its own category, like resort was, even though resort is, where we can't use, what is it, dormant, and make agritourism its own category, and take the resort similarities for master plan and put that to agritourism? Why can't it not just be its own category instead of it being within kind of this little category?
Really,
You know, because resort is out there on its own, even though we have it dormant and you can't do a resort now.
Right.
But why couldn't we just do that with agritourism?
well, I guess the better example would be Cord, which is still an active district, so you can ask to be rezoned to Cord, Community Outdoor Recreation District, and if you're gonna do a campground, for example, you know, you've got 50 acres, I wanna do a campground, commercial venture, et cetera, so I'd apply for rezoning to Cord and present a master plan as a part of that rezoning, showing how I'm gonna lay out my campground and my office and whatever. So the question, since Cord is active and resort is not active, why not make agritourism a zoning district like Cord? I think the reason is that the intent of agritourism is to be an accessory use on a farm, where the farm is the primary use. So you don't have to rezone your A1 property to any other zoning district in order to do agritourism. You simply have to say, in addition to their farming activities here, we're gonna set aside this area of land on the parcel. You don't have to subdivide it. You know, you can keep your 100-acre farm entirely intact, and you can say, we're just gonna use the front 40, the front 20, the front 10, whatever, as an agritourism venue, and here's how we wanna lay it out. Here's where we wanna park people. Here's where we wanna, you know, flow through. We'll have the corn maze here. We'll have a concessions building. We'll do restrooms. Master plan it however you want to, but it doesn't require you to change from your underlying A1 zoning. If you were gonna do a campground, you'd have to rezone the property, the parcel, to Cord, and then within Cord, you don't have all the same allowances as you do in A1. So you're able to keep everything that you're allowed to do in A1, plus add agritourism events. And really the purpose is that with agritourism, you're inviting you're creating a public amenity. It's a public accommodation. So it's different from just pure normal farming activities because you've got public safety and health concerns and so forth. But we're not suggesting, some places might, but we're not suggesting that because you have commercial activities, you need to rezone to commercial and build to commercial standards necessarily. We're saying that agritourism fits, it's an accessory use to the farm, master plan what you want to do, bring it through the approval process, and, you know, and it's wide open. I hope that the clarified language there makes it clear between items B and C that anything that qualifies, if you will, as agritourism, as being supplemental or accessory to the farming activities, can be included in a master plan and can be considered for approval.
Well, when you rezone, I know, Commissioner, you have a question. When you rezone, I understand it's rezoning, but if I'm trying to do agritourism, I'm not rezoning anything from A1. I'm just saying that I'm making this area agritourism. It's still A1, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
So that's the point I guess I'm having the trouble with. If agritourism is still on the farm, why can't it be its own little thing? And I come in here with a master plan saying, I'm taking these 10 acres and it's its own thing, like you brought up with Cord, and this is what I want to do. That's got nothing to do with what I'm doing with my farm. I mean, other than the fact that we're all A1. So why can't it just be its own category so that somebody comes in, because you may have a 10-acre farm. You know, in Harris County, we got 10 acres as A1.
Right.
And you want to do agritourism on 3 acres or 2 acres. Why can't we do that?
No,
So, I mean, you know, so I don't understand why we can't just have agritourism as its own little entity. I mean, and it may just be me not understanding it, but I don't understand why we can't.
I think it's simply in zoning, it's the technical distinction between a primary use, which requires zoning per that primary use, and an accessory use. It's kind of the equivalent of having a storage shed in your backyard where your house is the primary use and the storage shed is an accessory use. You don't have to rezone for the storage shed, you just have to meet the, requirements associated with placing an accessory building in your yard. So it's the same, it's bigger scale, it can be multiple facilities and uses, but it's the same principle there as an accessory use.
So if you're only doing agritourism, it would be its own piece, but that is not agriculture. That would be commercial, if all you were doing was agritourism.
I think that's a key factor as well, is that if your entire property
It's a petting zoo.
is dedicated only to
commercial.
that, then it's a different type. It's not a farm with agritourism. It's a commercial venture. It's a theme park or a amusement
It's a
park or a
commercial
petting
garden.
zoo or what have you. That's right. And there's different, there's cord for that, or there's, different
I want
options.
to go back and ask you about the campgrounds.
Sure.
So,
And I might need your help, Brian, here on cord.
some agritourism activities,
Mhm.
people bring their animals.
Hmm.
And so they don't want to leave their $10,000 horse
Mhm.
at my farm overnight, where you have a place for it, and go stay in a hotel. They want to camp near, or they have a horse trailer that has a bed and a shower, and they need a hookup, just
Right.
like a camper. It is a camper for them and their horse. So you said a while ago something about cord and campgrounds. Can you have areas for camping in your agritourism master plan?
I believe that if a master plan were brought before you and you decided that included campground and that it was described in a way that aligns with the purpose and intent of agritourism, I don't see why you couldn't approve that. And the key is that, the key is the definition, the purpose and the intent. And the key statement is 30902B, which says agritourism activities are linked directly to the primary agricultural use of the property, and any recreation, education, or active involvement in the farm operation is secondary and shall constitute only a percentage of the total working farm. So if the nature of your farm involves horses,
Like Poplar Place here in the county,
okay, yeah,
they
So-
have RV hookups
right.
for the people who come.
And again, I think that's where the intent of the master plan approach is to allow flexibility and allow the applicant to make an argument, this fits, and here's why, and here's how, and here are the conditions, and here's how it would be used, and implying, here's how it's truly agritourism, it's not really cord, or
It's
it's
not
not
really a
really commercial,
campground,
or it's
it's
not really a
not-
hotel, or what have you, right?
So you could apply that to, say, tiny homes. You got, say, 5 tiny homes out there, and somebody comes in with their horse, but they don't have the horse, camper trailer, they could stay in a tiny home because they're staying there because they don't want to leave their horse. If that came within a master plan and the Board of Commissioners felt that that was part of agritourism, that person was not, just doing it written tiny homes, it's part of the agritourism. So
Yep.
you can approve that.
If you determine, and again, it's the board doing the approval, planning commission and board. So if you were to approve that that is consistent with the purpose and intent statements that are in the ordinance, yes.
Let's call them cabins.
Or cabins, right, yeah. Yeah. And then, we don't have in here, I think it's 309-9, I'm not sure which number it is, but where it talks about temporary snack shops, no electricity, no water. I know that I have repeatedly asked to just take out the word temporary, take out no electricity, no water, because I don't know how you can have a corn maze, and if you want to pop popcorn, not have electricity or water. And I understand about temporary, but I don't believe it's our job to determine if they need to build an expensive snack shop or an inexpensive snack shop. If they want to have a little snack shop to sell water or Coca-Colas and do popcorn at the corn maze or pumpkin pies at a pumpkin patch, I don't know why to me, those are restrictions that I don't think we need to get involved in, and I think temporary, no electricity, no water needs to come out, because they still have to get a building permit, and they have to go through the permit process for all of that. So why can't we just take that out?
I want to clarify something right there. So when we're talking temporary structure,
You gotta come up here.
when we're talking temporary structure, you typically would not have to get a building permit depending on the use of it. If it's going to be used for a snack shop, then we're probably going to have to look at it a little bit, see what you're doing. But we can take it's not necessary to take it out, but with a master plan, that overrides it, period. If a master plan comes in, he's got snack shop on there, whoever's got snack shop on there, and y'all approve it, we're good. The water, power can be hooked up. He clarifies that, no problem.
But then if you're having somebody that all they wanna do is a corn maze, and they build a 400 square foot little building to do popcorn and Coca-Colas for the corn maze for the elementary school kids, it may not be temporary. So you don't need to be temporary, because they're doing it for that season. That's the only season they do, but we're telling them you gotta bring it in, then you gotta take it out. If they're gonna do it every year, why can't they just go ahead and put it there, and we let them hook up with water, electricity, as long as everything is approved and a building permit? I just don't think the word temporary and telling them they can't have water or electricity is something we need
That's fine.
to deal with.
Then we can just remove that tonight. So all you have to do is just say we want to remove it, and we'll take it
Well,
out.
I'd like to remove temporary, no electricity and no
There you
water out of whatever that is, 3099, whatever it is. And I understand where you're coming from, Brian, but I just think that's getting us more into the weeds, and we don't need to be into the weeds on that. That's just me on that one.
Okay.
And whatever it is, Lee, I'm not, like I said, I know it's in 309, I'm not sure.
No,
which.
you're correct, 30909, that's
Okay.
right, that's snack shops, that's correct.
All right, does anyone have any other questions for Lee or for Brian?
I have one. There was several questions. I kept hearing about the 5 acres. Do we want to leave that? Are we good with that?
I would like to drop it down to 3 acres, maybe 2.
And
I don't know
that's
about
fine.
y'all, but
Where are you talking about?
The general, it's on
it's right here, 30903, minimum lot size, 5
5
acres.
acres.
I think we need to drop that down to 2 or 3 acres.
Commissioner Gant asked me. Commissioner Gant asked me earlier, what it used to be. It used to be 25.
Right.
So we took it down to 5. That was just one of those numbers that came out during our discussion over the last 3
It's
years.
saying that you could have agritourism on,
So-
you gotta have a minimum of 5 acres for the agritourism use. But you know, we have lots in Harris County that are 2 acres that are still that are A1, or we have,
Yes,
you know, we have lots that are even smaller than that that's still A1.
And you have lots in neighborhoods that are less than 2
Right.
acres, or greater than 2 acres.
This is under agritourism.
That's right, it's
And
under
so if they wanted
the
to
general
do-
conditions.
If they wanted to do say they wanted to put, I don't know, make jams and jellies as under agritourism and sell it on a lot that's 2 acres, if you brought it 2 acres, they could do that. If you say 5 acres, they couldn't do that. I think that would be right, kinda, sorta. Maybe not jams and jellies.
No,
but-
don't use that one,
there's a
'cause that's
different-
cottage kitchen.
there's a different
That can go
provision.
anywhere.
Right, okay.
Would that have been a consideration for parking, you think, maybe?
Yeah, that's, I
Yeah.
mean, when you add up,
I mean,
you add up a few factors that, you know, I guess led us to feel comfortable with 5 acres, reducing from 25. One, you're accounting that, again, the primary purpose of the property is farming. So you take the majority of the 5 acres and you've got fields, gardens, pasture, et cetera. Then out of the balance of it, yes, you do need to account for parking based on the size and nature of events you're gonna do. And that's, you know, you determine that based on what you expect and what you feel is reasonable, and then there'd be review and approval, and facilities and circulation. But, right, I mean, if you get down to a standard 1 and 2 acre lot size, you know, home site, it is more difficult to accommodate farming activity plus parking plus facilities.
For
Yeah, but
instance,
in
the
the
guy
example-
you just rezoned tonight, he's got 22 acres. Now, he has said that he's not gonna, you know, he just wants goats and, well, not goats, but chickens and rabbits. But if that was not a condition, then he could put agritourism right behind that neighborhood. You just want to be careful because this doesn't just apply for certain spaces. There's a lot of neighborhoods that are still zoned A1. Melody Lakes, Pine Lake, they're zoned A1. There's a few neighborhoods in Fortson, still zoned A1. So you just might want to.
I just think 5 acres is too much. I mean,
That's fine.
that's just me personally. I mean, I could see us going down to 3, because 3 still gives you enough room for parking or whatever you're doing. And, there's not very many,
You can change that right now.
not very many 3-acre lots in the smaller neighborhoods, so to speak.
That's right.
That's just me. I just, you know, I think we could go to 3, but, you know, that's my opinion.
Three? Y'all just make that as part of your motion, and we'll put it in.
Hope you're writing all this down.
Okay.
All right. All right, well, you said you had a couple.
No, that was it. That was
All
it.
right.
That was the only one.
You still have your public hearing.
I'm there. All right, so we're gonna do that to 3. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for Lee or Brian at this time? All right, if not, I will, ask, is there anyone in favor of the UDCs with all these changes we have made? And the specified changes. Thank you, Bobby. Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Anyone like to speak in favor, going 3 times? Okay, anyone like to speak in opposition? Please state your name and your address.
Morgan Marlowe, 6521 Highway 18, Pine Mountain, Georgia. Let's address the 5 to the 3. Do any of you know how many strawberries you can put on 1 acre? How many? How many plants can you put on 1 acre? You can put 15,000 plants on 1 acre.
You got micro farms,
So you could do, it needs to be 2 acres to accommodate that, and I'm gonna tell you why. I don't know how many he recommended go to 2 acres, but when I was going through this process to go to a farmer's market and had to rezone for bathrooms, it was recommended that I go to 2 acres. I chose 4 because at the time commercial was 4, and I thought I might have to go to 4 to get by some of this stuff. It needs to go to 2. 3 is better than 5, but it needs to go to 2. When you get down to farm dinners, I know y'all are making some changes in there, but who cares? Just say they're permitted. Take out the number. Just say they're permitted. The number of festivals, 30907. Why do you care if there's 3? Why can't they have 5? Why can't they have 6? What do you care? As long as they get the appropriate permits, who cares? 30908, take out in the title, seasonal products. They can have retail sales because a lot of these places sell other things than just seasonal products. 30909, snack shops, take out temporary, take out 1 through 5. You can leave B and 3 and 4. Everything else needs to go. Who cares? They want power and water to have a concession stand because you can do corn mazes, you can do strawberries, you can do pumpkin patches. It's not seasonal. It just becomes obvious that the people writing this stuff don't know what agritourism is. Then you get down, the definition is probably right, but I still can't find anywhere that talks about how you get a master plan approved. It mentions some stuff in there, but nowhere does it say this is what you gotta do. So I've got special use permits out the wazoo. Do I have to go for another special use permit? Because that's the way it sounds in here. Or do I just apply my master plan and say, here it is, let's go? I mean, it's, you take out the restrictions, I can do what I want to do tonight. And I know you're not trying to do this. You should not be trying to do this for one person. You should be doing it for everybody and make it easier for everybody and get some of these people out of the process that are trying to micromanage how businesses are done. But look at troop counties. I think it's a little too much detail, but it's a lot better than what we got. Ours is so muddled. It's just, as far as the housing, you have to answer that question. Do you provide housing? Do you provide overnight stays? So it's part of agritourism. They can come there and they can pick. They can come here and they go fishing. They can come here and they can work cows. There's all kind of stuff that they can come and do as an accessory use. It's just, we're trying to tell people what the model of their business should be, and that's being done by people that don't know what's going on in the real world. Look out there. I've given them all of the farms to look at to see what's going on. And it's just a shame that it's taken me 5 years to get to this point. I've lost time, which I will never get back, and money. The money's not as important as the time. Just look at all those changes, please. Any you make is better than what we got.
All right, is there anyone else that'd like to speak in opposition? Anyone else? Third time, anyone else? All right. Do you have any rebuttal to any of that, or everybody, you good? Do you have anybody have questions for Brian or Lee on that?
In reference to the questions and everything that Mr. Marlowe is referencing to, can we get to that and get that straight? Because I'm like him. I mean, I've been listening to it too. I'm ready to get past this and put it to bed and move on. So
What exactly are we talking
whatever, what all we're talking about on getting clarified on this agritourism stuff. Everything that we're addressing tonight and what Mr. Marlowe was just talking about.
So you're talking about going from, so what you're asking is talking about going from 3 to 2. 2 in itself is specified to, just in growth and what they can actually grow there. 2, are you talking about like with the cabins in itself, associated with the cabins? You know, what other part is that as far as?
Well, that's what I'm actually missing part of that.
Are you talking about like limitations to, you know, I guess what actually can be done underneath 3099 in itself?
Yeah, that's actually the one I'm missing. I'm missing 30.
Well, I believe the cabins can be done within the master plan as long as they're approved.
So, so in my opinion, I think the master plan should kind of supersede.
I know, I was just looking.
That when
I
it
was
comes to
looking for it, I don't have
agritourism,
it.
let the master plan dictate what happens in
Okay.
off that site when it comes to agritourism.
Well, and I think, as Mr. Marlowe asked, does he have to get a special use permit to do this master plan? I think if he just does a master plan and brings it up here, I think that's what we should do.
It should be.
You know, I think that's what we should do.
So what is the process of submitting a master plan?
Submit it to me. Submit it to me at the office by the certain deadlines so that, again, it doesn't get, I'd have to look and see if it gets advertised. I think it does get advertised. He doesn't have to put a sign out or anything like that because he's not rezoning. And then we would go before the planning commission, and then it would come before you all for final approval.
So is that in writing anywhere?
Yes, it's in the ordinance. It's always been there.
How to,
Right, the master plan approval is in there and has been.
Well, we need to put that where it's a little bit more clear, because I've tried to find it and I couldn't find it either.
Find it, read it for us, and tell us.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
Find it, read it for us.
Please look.
and then, I know that we just recently had another master plan submitted, and we just filed it, and it did not go to the planning commission or come to here. Why can we not do that for this establishment that's been established for a while too? Maybe not as long as the other establishment, but it's been established for a while too. Why can we not just have them submit the master plan, you look at it and file it like we did the other establishment?
The other one I just simply asked for, they didn't have to give me anything. They've been in existence long before our department was even here. So I simply asked them, when meeting with them one day about something totally different, I asked them specifically, hey, can y'all get me a simple master plan of what y'all do on the sites? And they said, sure, and we'll even give you a schedule of events. And that's what I put on the record, because we never had anything before that. I went through up and down through all the records that I had over there, and nothing was ever submitted. Not even back in 2002 or 3 before they chunked resort zoning. None of that was ever in there. So I can't speak for the past, but I did go at least and get that. Now, I think this process should be that it goes before the planning commission and the board of commissioners. But if y'all would like to change that process, then you can change that process too.
Well, I'm just saying, if we already had one submitted and it didn't do that process.
Well, and let me just speak on something else. I went and visited three counties, and talked to three different people in planning at those three counties. They're North Georgia. Each one of them said that they go through they have a development, let me get my pen.
So let me ask you this. So when it comes to master plans with existing agritourism facilities that we have in existence today, couldn't it be extended the same courtesy?
No, I think our process is fairly simple, to be honest, because they actually have a plan review committee. And upon that, you bring your master plan to 6 different departments at your time, not to one meeting and then another meeting, but you go to 6 different departments, and then it still goes to the Board of Commissioners for approval. So it would be reviewed by the planning, building inspection, roads, fire department, or emergency services, water, and the health department.
All right, I understand all that.
I'm just saying, there
And
are
I
other
agree
processes.
with you. I think our process is simple. Planning commission to here. What I'm asking is that if we get a voluntary master plan from this other business that's been in for a while, why can we not just file it like we did the last one? Or are you going to originally or eventually bring the one from the other business to us to approve? Or are
If
we
they-
just saying
No.
it's gonna be approved because it's always been there?
Let's just say if they came in with a new use up there, if they came in with something other than what they've given me for what they're doing now, then they would have to come back y'all for approval process, just like we're doing it with Anil's.
What about Callaway Gardens? Do they do? they
That's
follow
the one I'm
the same
talking about.
rule?
Yes, they do the same thing, and we're on top of them every day.
So when they change up with a new operation, they come to you and ask for permission to do it?
They have to. If they came in
When was
with
the
a
last
new,
time they did that?
I've never seen, I take that back.
What about pumpkin patches, just 2 years old?
They did not come with that,
But it's in the master plan that you just
but
filed.
it's in the master plan that I have, yes.
And then that's what I'm saying. That's my question. And let me state this up front. I don't want to do anything that's going to harm Callaway, because they bring a lot of tourism in here and they help this county out. That's not what I'm saying.
Well, let me
But I'm
say
saying,
this.
if we're gonna do this for one that's been established, why can we not do this for another one that's also been established? I understand the rules, planning commission, I get all that, and I think that is what we should do.
I think the biggest difference here is you've got resort zoning. And then the other difference is you have agricultural zoning and an agritourism accessory use, which requires special use permit. In the past, that's all it required was special use permits. That was the only way you could get it. Now we've actually introduced the agritourism stuff, and now you can go through the process, master plan it, and get what you want per that master plan, as long as you guys approve it.
How much do you have to pay to do that through agritourism? Is there a cost, since we don't have to do another special use permit, or can he, he, her, him, whoever, because there are several people that could do agritourism, could just come up here and say, I'm presenting you the master plan, this is what I wanna do, and then it goes to the planning commission.
If it was agritourism, we don't have a master plan fee for
Right.
that. So I would say right now, if y'all wanted to waive those fees until we put something on the books in April, when we come around to budget time, because we're gonna be bringing a lot of fees again for different things, and they're not to make money.
Right.
They're just because we have to work and we have to provide services. So that's what we're doing. We have a lot that goes on over there, a lot. And this is just just a small bit of what we do.
Right.
So, if y'all want, whatever changes y'all wanna make, we can make.
So-
Y'all are the board.
So the let me ask you this, so let me clarify this. So fee process in itself, when somebody first comes up, let's say they've got an agricultural piece of property now and they want to initialize, or they want to take advantage of agritourism on that land, right? So that's when that fee associated with creating an agritourism special use would come into play, right? Not beforehand. So on, let's say, new agritourism use cases, the one that's in play now, since it doesn't have a master plan involved now, So that fee would, there's zero fee to that, to me, because agritourism's already, allocated, it's already in use, and it's already been approved. So if the existing agritourism sites decided they wanted to come up and bring a master plan, I think that shouldn't be a fee involved at all, and that one is already there, it's associated. Two,
That's fine.
anything new that was coming out, say for instance, somebody wanted to get from want to say, okay, now I want to use this for agritourism, that would be a separate, to be able to, then they would come with their master plan, then they would come with, whatever, if it's a
Well,
special use, whatever.
the idea, if you're
Actually, it
starting
should be
one,
just be master plan.
the idea, if you're starting one, and Morgan has, he is right, he has many special use permits that him
Well, I'm
and
not
his
talking
dad
about that, I'm
have
talking about if we
over years.
decide.
But I'm just saying, there's two processes here. You can get a special use permit to do a corn maze on your property.
Mm-hmm.
Or, if you want to do more, you could get an agritourism plan, master plan approved, and cover whatever you wanted to do there.
How many times do you really see, just questioning, how many times do you see somebody coming up and say, I just want to do a corn maze? If they're going to do agritourism, they're not looking at just one venue, I don't think, or one activity.
I only know of one in the county, or two, actually.
Well, but I'm just saying, there's usually other things in there. There's probably, U-Pick process or,
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever, that's involved with that. So what I'm saying, if they want to come in and say they want to do one thing, why would they want to come in, help me understand this, why would they want to come in and pay that special use fee for one thing? They can just come in and say, hey, here's a master plan, I'm thinking about doing these, but this is what I want to target day one.
Well, if
mean,
they
if I
wanted
was
to
gonna do
bring
that
in a
process.
master plan that way without any special use, they'd have to do a special use permit as well, along with that master plan. So that $400 fee would apply.
So
In Morgan's
initially for
case, he's
any-
already got.
No,
the
I'm not
special
talking about him, I'm talking about anybody. That's
That's what I'm talking
If you
about.
want to
If
come up
somebody
and
else came
brand
up
new
new,
agritourism, so
yeah.
you automatically would have to get the special use $400 permit, and then at that time, submit your master plan.
Submit your master plan along with it, yes.
And then with that master plan, they can sit there and notate in bullet points, hey, this is what I'm doing day one, but day 2, 3, 4, whatever, this is what I'm thinking about doing, they wouldn't have to come back. They could initialize that activity.
Yes.
Underneath that master plan.
Yes, they could put whatever they wanted to
Without
on
a
there.
separate
And as
special
long-
use permit.
Right, as long as it's covered and y'all approve it, it's a detailed master plan is what it is. If it's covered, y'all approve it, we're good. If it's not covered and they want to add something new, then we might have to come back and adjust it, yes.
But they could put something down and not have a time frame on it, so if
Right.
they could say they may wanna put down a strawberry patch, but they don't start doing it for 6 years, doesn't matter, as long as they had it in their.
As long as they had
master
it in their master plan, we're good.
plan. All right,
It doesn't say you got to do it immediately. No.
So when they come to you for this master plan, can they do this like yearly? Would this be like when they get their business license renewed? Can they renew that, present a master plan
Get it
update
anytime they
or
want.
anything?
They can get it anytime they want.
But I mean, I'm talking about a one-time thing. Business license comes in, master plan's filed, boom, boom.
Yeah, we can get business license as well. We need one with it, yes.
I'm just trying to understand all of it. Just a lot to take in.
I got
You know.
Did you find what we're looking for, Lee?
So as Brian said, the master plan, excuse me, approval process is linked to the special use approval process, which is section 1104. So if you read through section 1104, it starts by clarifying what applies, rezoning, special use exceptions, et cetera. And then it describes that there are filing deadlines. So as Brian mentioned, you have to first submit an application. The calendar for filing deadlines is established at the beginning of each year that, sets planning commission meetings, corresponds to board commissioner meetings, advertisement requirements, et cetera. That's 02. And then 03, there's details about, if you need to withdraw an application, you can. And this, again, this is not only agritourism here. This is everything special, any type of special use follows the same process of application. You've got rights specified regarding withdrawal. Public hearing and notice requirements is 04. So that describes, how notification happens. There's some updates in that based on these state law requirements.
I don't see anywhere where it says this is also master plan approval.
I'll get to that. So It clarifies the standards for evaluating it in 110405, so it's not just, you know, whatever standards we want. There are actual specific zoning standards that apply. Special use criteria are stated in section B there, so that's the basis for evaluating, again, normal special use. The public hearing requirements, and then the master plan requirements follow the whole public hearing process. So first, it's basically clarified how it goes through the public notification, public hearings, planning commission, board, and decisions. And then when you get down to application, section 1106 is where you've got the descriptions of what's required of the applicant, what you have to submit. And in 1106, it's number 13. Well, again, this covers every possibility, but we added number 13 under B. So 1106B13 is really the one. 1106B13. You got the whole code there, yeah. So 1106B13 is what we added to the code when you adopted it this time last year, specific to agritourism. I'll read that, it's 4 lines. For agritourism, and this is after, 1 through 12, before 13, are all the detailed requirements for a master plan for a resort or housing or whatever. So there's a lot of detail. For 13, we said, it says, for agritourism master plans, the conceptual site plan may be simplified to include a vicinity map, property boundaries, conceptual layout of proposed agritourism uses, proposed ingress-egress points, your entry-exit for parking, off-street parking locations, natural vegetation and buffers, and and plans for restroom accommodations if applicable. So if you want to follow everything in 1 through 12 and have a, survey and professional draw it up, et cetera, you can certainly do all that. But the intent of number 13 is to allow it to be simplified, where as long as you've got a boundary of the property and you're illustrating, roughly to scale how these other components of it are intended to work, and it's, logically presented in a way that the Planning Commission and you can review it and understand it, then that suffices for agritourism purposes. That, number 13, doesn't apply to anything other than agritourism. So if you're doing any other kind of concept plan, resort, accord, whatever, you've got to follow the full master plan requirements.
That's it, 13 specifically addresses agritourism.
That's right.
In a kind of a broad format, it seems.
That's right. Yeah.
But it took us 20 minutes to get to number 13, so can.
And I'm totally lost on
So you
that.
can see how
why did
somebody looking for it may not find it.
Well, I'm still totally confused.
Well, and
I understand.
Because, our codes are this thick.
And so what we have to facilitate that, Brian in the office has a one-page form, not just for agritourism, for a whole lot of different application purposes. If you're coming in to apply for a new CORD project, you've got a CORD form, right? If you're coming in to apply for a new, campground business under CORD, here's the one-pager, which is based on the codes. Same thing for agritourism. Here's the one-pager. Check boxes 1, 2, 3, 4.
You have one for agritourism also? Yes, it's already ready.
So most things, you can't capture everything because there's a big wild world of stuff that can be done here. But for the things that we expect applicants to typically come in and request or show interest in, we've put together forms, checklists, if you will, cheat sheets to guide the process.
I'm still confused. I understand 1106-B13. That addresses agritourism directly.
That states what,
All that other stuff that you read before that, what's that got to do with the agritourism?
Okay, so there's the plan itself, which is 13. This is what, this is your guidance to draw up a plan. That's 13. The process, everything else is process. So the process, after you follow this guidance or the checklist, you draw up a plan. The process is you submit it to the Community Development Department. Then it gets advertised as appropriate. It's put on a schedule for Planning Commission review. Planning Commission reviews the public hearing requirements, process are all there. Their recommendation, the criteria that they use for special use, et cetera. And then it comes to you. So everything prior to that just lays out the whole process, which is mostly based not on what we want to do here per se, it's based on Georgia zoning procedures law. So a lot of that, and you'll see a lot of that section 11 is where we've just had to make revisions based on state law changes to zoning procedures law.
All right, anyone have any more questions?
I think some of these restrictions on here just kind of, I think it muddies the water a lot, to be honest, for use on agritourism and what we're trying to, I guess, gain into the county, and what we're trying to utilize and what we're trying to, capitalize on, really. I mean, what are y'all's thoughts on the restrictions, as a whole?
And let everything come under the master plan.
Yes.
My thing that I keep falling back on is the temporary power. What if you don't need power all year long for that area? And Georgia Power comes in and says, you can have power on this building, we approve it, and it's there. Why would we go against Georgia Power to give that power? I mean, it's
What do you mean?
like if you've got something you only want to do seasonal, and you want temporary power hooked up just for that time. It's because it seems like temporary power keeps popping up in discussion.
The temporary is for the building itself.
Right.
If
That's
you get power, it's not temporary. Water is not temporary. It's temporary for the building itself, and it's no water, and it's no power. So there's no temporary for power or water. So
Okay.
right now, as it states, you can have a temporary building with no water and no power. So the temporary is specifically for the building, and you can't have water. If we take out the word temporary and take out no water and no power, then you can have that building, and you can then have the power that you may only use for one season, or maybe 2 out of the 4, and you can have the water. So you take that temporary completely out of there.
Okay, so what you have learned recently, you could have up to an 800 square foot building, ag like that, I think recently was with no permit, and have water hooked to it, power hooked to it, and roll with it. Is that right?
Difference between ag building and public accommodation.
Yes.
Okay.
The difference there, I mean, they still both require permits, but, the use of that building may require a contractor, because it's public use. Depending on what type of building it is, it may have to have engineering drawings, we don't know. It just depends on what comes up to us.
To your question, Mr. Irons, why leave in the code the individual descriptions? Because previously granted special use permits tie to those. So if you take all those out, then the previously granted special use permits don't have a connection in the existing code.
No, I don't think that's true.
No?
How many is?
Because if they have a special use
Well, that's
permit,
it.
they still have it,
Right.
then
How does
that's
that-
their special use permit for what they're doing. I don't think that's what he's saying.
Okay.
I think he's saying we're having too many restrictions, us moving forward, because you can have special use permit for that one thing. I believe he's talking about specifically if it's an agritourism master plan, not if somebody wanna just come do a special use permit to do a strawberry patch and nothing else.
Yeah.
So I think those are, I don't think that's what he's, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're not speaking for me, but that's what I'm trying to get at. I mean, the special use permits, I don't understand how that makes that, you're saying it's obsolete.
So special use.
If we do if we use one, we
Right.
start utilizing the master plan. The master plan in itself, to me, umbrellas, whatever use that is that's dictated up underneath that, what bullet points they're using for those activities under, agritourism itself. The special use permits that are already sitting out there, if they've already got those there and somebody says, hey, I want to put in a master plan, that should, completely fall up underneath that umbrella, kind of grandfather clause in
Right.
my opinion.
I would agree.
Two, on the backside of that, whenever you're really talking about the special use permits on an individual base, how does that null and void that just because now, as of this date, we're saying that you gotta have a, master plan covers whatever it is that that special use, in the past has, pretty much, detailed, right, that use, because that would be a grandfather clause, in my opinion, as well. If it's, that special use is already there, that use permit wouldn't go away, it would still be there.
I guess
and be
the key
honored.
point is that we have not been saying, we can shift to say that,
Right,
but we have not been saying that now for agritourism, you must have a master plan. We added master plan as an option.
right,
So as it stands now, someone wishing to do agritourism has the option of either going the master plan route, multiple approval, et cetera, or individual.
Right, 'cause
Special
that-
use permit.
because the special use permit in itself is for that one activity, right, that one.
Traditionally, it has been, and there's still the option for that.
Right.
That's right.
And then the master plan itself would be an umbrella for a, a aggregate of whatever those activities that are defined within that master plan on submittal.
That's right.
All right,
That's
so
the option that
second
exists.
thing that the process that I need to understand and wrap my head around. If you put, or you actually, if you, implement a master plan, you've got these, activities associated with that. Now you want to come back in and augment and add other activities to that. What is that process there? Is that a text amendment to the original master
No,
plan?
it's not a text amendment. There's provisions for master plan change. So this is exactly what we're going through right now on one of the resort properties, where a master plan was previously approved. They want to change, so we're going through a change process. That one's got, fairly involved. But for this, it should be, well, one, as was mentioned earlier, there's not an obligation to implement right away or very soon what you put in your master plan. You can anticipate the future, and you can build into it flexibility, and especially since a lot of what you're talking about is not hard infrastructure, structures, foundations, buildings. A lot of what you're talking about is agriculture. Agritourism activity is the planting, the corn maze. That's a growth. It's not, there's accessories to that, but everything you're talking about in this master plan is not something that's constructed. Moving things around from one field to another, et cetera. So, and as was mentioned, frankly, I'm not an agritourism specialist. I don't think Brian is either. So our intent with the master plan approach was to allow basically maximum flexibility so that those who are the experts, who are operating the businesses and know how they work, can lay it out on a paper in a way that explains it to all of us who aren't.
So, with the master plan, all right, so thoughts on this? With the master plan itself, the restrictions would pretty much go away then.
Yes.
So that's what,
The
I mean,
only,
that's in-
the only thing right now with the master plan is that we have it as an option. You can do special use permit, or you can do a master plan for agritourism. And if you're gonna do a special use permit, then you're only gonna do one thing. Because you're probably not doing multiple things, because you're probably not gonna wanna have to pay $400 to do 4 or 5 different things.
No.
If you'd have to pay $400 for each special use permit,
But if that special use permit came,
Yeah, you're gonna have to mic up again.
if that special use permit came in, and we've done this in the past, I know, because if they came in and they said they wanted corn maze, educational farm tours, and,
well, I understand, but I'm
a
saying they
farmer's
come
market.
in and all they
That's
do is
all on
corn
one.
maze. But I'm saying they come in and do corn maze, and then 3 years from now, they decide, you know what, I think I wanna do a strawberry patch, then they gotta do another permit, correct? Cause that didn't come in
if
with
you
this.
do a U-pick strawberry patch, there's nothing that you need.
There's nothing.
Alright, so, alright, well, they do pumpkin patch or whatever, but I'm saying if they do 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes, you can. There's nothing, that's not regulated by us. That's regulated by the Department of Ag, not us. So,
But it goes to what your point is, Bob. If we do a master plan, right now, we're not requiring it for agritourism.
right,
It's an option to do this or that. If we require it for, if you're gonna do agritourism and we require a master plan, then basically all those restrictions go away and they can come in with their master plan and put whatever they want on it, and that's what they would get approved, if it's approved. And then, let's say somewhere down the road, they realize that they want to have a pony ride then they would come back and say, we didn't have this in the master plan, we'd like to do a pony ride, then they would go through that process.
And-
Roughly.
Yeah,
Pony ride, not so much.
Yeah, I agree.
New building, more
new
so.
building stuff, that kind of things, yes.
Well, I was trying to keep it with agritourism.
Right, yeah.
Or if you wanted to do, let's just say you didn't have a winery on there and now you wanted to. Perfect example. Now you could come back and add that to it.
But that
With the
wouldn't have any
tasting.
restrictions because a winery would be under the agritourism at that
Correct.
time.
Right.
So I think we ought to require agritourism to have a master plan.
I do too. Well, that right there.
That way, because I think if you want to do agritourism, then you're probably want to do multiple different things.
Right.
And that will cover you and it'll keep you from having to do all the other things and the
You come back
restrictions.
each time that you actually want to add an activity.
Right.
Now, at this time, and I just want this for clarification, let's just say I have a special use permit, I'm gonna bring you a master plan. Currently, that would not require a fee, because I already have a special use permit that I paid for. If I'm starting a new special use permit or a new farm that's gonna have agritourism, then that, in my opinion, would require the $400 fee.
Yes,
I would
for
think
new
so.
Okay.
initialized. But
Just
I
want
think we need to give a
clarification.
grace period for everybody that already has I mean, I don't know, this is just a thought. People that already have, special use permits with agritourism in itself.
There's
So
nothing.
well, I'm talking about for the fee. They have to come up and,
Oh, yeah.
submit the master plan, sorry.
Well, there's not a fee for master plans right now anyway.
Right.
I know, but I mean, we will be associating a fee to it whenever you go to
Well, the
this
grace period
agritourism site.
for that would be from now till April.
Right.
Okay.
All right, because.
Right,
That's fine.
yeah, we'd probably even go as far as June 1st.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
June
June,
1st.
Which is
because
fine.
that's when we would do the fee at that time.
That's what I just want to notate that
Oh,
in there,
yeah.
so everyone would know that this is the time frame that you have to do this, minus fee.
That's right.
That's fine.
All
So
right.
are you advocating then that we would, but that everything in agro-tourism requires a master plan?
Well, if you do a master plan for agritourism, everything you would do would be in the master plan.
Yeah.
It would be
So-
umbrellaed in.
So
you
the little
would
guy
have-
that just wants to sell strawberries off of his
He could still
2
do a
acres.
special use permit. He
Yep.
wouldn't have to do agritourism.
They would have to do them.
Okay, so you're not saying 100%?
No,
No,
if,
okay.
if you wanna do agritourism, then you have to do a master plan.
There's specific
If-
activities that
But
you
if you
don't need a
wanted to
master
just go
plan.
out there and say, I just wanna do a corn maze and that's all I wanna do, then I could just do a special use permit and that's all I need.
A good example, like you keep bringing up, like, if I wanted to go up to the street corner and sell, I can't sell them on the street corner, but if I wanted to sell peaches and I had a 10-acre farm, I can sell those peaches. I just set me up a tent, because we have that in there too, a produce stand. It's always been in our ordinance. It's less than 500 square foot. It comes down once the season's over. You get a business license, you rock and roll. We've had that in there for years. So that kind of stuff takes care of those little things. Now, in the cities, some of those things can be different. But we're not worried about the cities, we're worried about what we're wanting to do here.
So from here going forward, just to clarify and back up what I was asking a minute ago, can we attach that to where every time they come in for renew their business license, that do they have to re-give you another master plan?
No,
Or-
no.
Okay, so
no.
once a master plan's done, it's done,
No,
gone,
you don't-
move on.
Yeah, unless you're doing something substantial that's gonna change that use. And y'all mentioned, and again, I wanna go back, resort zoning's totally different. There's a number of umbrella things under that thing that you can do. That's the reason we don't typically ask if, just like you said, they had pumpkin patches this year. Well, they've had pumpkin patches in the past too, but they went really grown out with it this year and massive pumpkins and all kinds of lights and that kind of stuff. I've never seen anything for it, and I don't think under resort you can actually require. But because they're not going out of their area, it talks about it in the ordinance. If you're not, if you're not increasing your perimeter of your resort zoning, that requires a special use, a master plan revision. And anything in there that's not typical that you already have there. And that-
On the activities, the requirement is you gotta keep a minimum.
Right,
So as long as you're keeping the minimum of recreational activities.
Correct.
You're fine.
yeah.
All right, does anybody have any other questions? All right, I will close this public hearing. and now we've come to that all fun time. We need a motion and a vote for what we have all discussed and talked about.
Let me, so for a UPIC operation and everything else, you have to have special, well, hold up. So special use permit, and then you said ag handles that, they govern that, right? Not us.
You don't have to have anything from us.
Right.
That's through the Department of Ag. We don't raise.
So is it just UPIC, or is it like, you know, would the, but, okay, so question, do pumpkin patches fall under UPIC?
Well, he can ask him a question.
Yeah.
But we're now back in the regular commission.
Do those fall under UPIC too?
It could, I mean, it's not really,
Usually they just bring in pumpkins. and
Yeah.
lay 'em out there and you pick one up.
and you pick one
not
up
off
and,
the vine.
yeah.
If you picked it off the vine, I think it would be you pick. But in this area, we don't have.
Do you
many.
sell Christmas trees still? No, you don't? Okay. Never have? I thought y'all did one year. Okay. Christmas trees, same thing. We don't require anything for those. I mean.
That's if you cut them, or is that when they just haul them in and put them?
Now, if you had a Christmas tree farm, we would just require a business license.
Right, right.
That's not agritourism. That's not part of that.
Yep, okay.
You pick, and it says in the ordinance, that's the reason it points out things like, I'll be honest with you, corn mazes, it's really anything that's gonna cause an assembly of people.
Right.
Corn mazes, which I don't know why that one was put in there, but it was years ago before my time. Things like farmer's market, yes, you want a special use for that, or a master plan. Things like, what's some of the other ones? I'm drawing a blank right now. Farmer's market, the educational tours, where you bring kids in to look at a farm, or you want to do a dude ranch or
Like a
something like
little-
that.
Like a little petting zoo or something like that.
Yeah,
That's in there.
it's where you start getting into fine lines at times, like a dude ranch. You're gonna be generating cash. That requires a business license. Well, you probably wanna get a special use permit for that, or a master plan saying you want a dude ranch and what you're gonna be doing there. I'm gonna have a shooting range, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have that, I'm gonna have fishing, I'm gonna have guided hunts. Well, you kinda might leaning toward cord if you're not careful, so you have to be careful with that too. And we've had people zone property to cord before who wanted simply to just have guided hunts. And they did have some small accommodations on there, but that's what cord is there for accommodations type stuff.
Okay.
But the master plan would eliminate that if somebody brought that to y'all and wanted to have, say, 10 spots for campers with hookups. Y'all approve it for water and power to each one of those little hookups, we're good with that. But y'all have to approve that. We can't just come out of the box and throw that out there.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, so we need a motion and a vote.
Can I ask, before we go there, can we, for Andrea's benefit even, review through the whole section of 309?
Yes.
Line by line, it's only 25 or 30 lines, but let's just make sure
Yes.
that we know what we're voting on. So,
30909 or 309 as a whole?
309 as a whole, all the way
309 as a
down.
whole is way more sections than that.
I know, so what changes do you have for 309 as a whole?
So the things that you seem to focus on primarily, the things in 309 that you've discussed changing was the language
Okay,
under
let
the
me-
snack shop
Let me,
to remove temporary.
let me recommend that we just go down 30901, let's read it and see if we have any proposed changes to it. Is that okay? Let's just knock it out.
Y'all don't have the whole thing, so, but, I mean, some of you
Well,
might have it on your thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have it.
Go ahead.
You want me to read it off?
I've got it too,
Read it, Audra.
on my little phone. The purpose is the agritourism 30901 purpose. The purpose of these standards is to allow agritourism uses in Harris County while maintaining the rural character and preserving farmland of the area and protecting the health, safety, and welfare of citizens.
I think we all
I think
Say
that's
that's,
good.
all right, let's go. 02.
30902, General. A, agritourism as defined in Article 13 of this development code may be allowed on working farms in Harris County in accordance with the standards set forth in this section. B, agritourism activities are linked directly to the primary agricultural use of the property, and any recreation, education, or active involvement in a farm operation is secondary and shall constitute only a percentage of the total working farm. C, for farm winery, see section 319.
Anybody have a problem with that? It sounds,
Nope.
Oh, it's in there too, sorry. Some of this I'm gonna have to look back because there are some changes in this one. 309.03, general minimum standards. Right now, minimum lot size, 5 acres.
yes.
We want to change it to either 3 or 2.
I
Y'all
don't see a
discuss-
problem going with 2.
I'm
mean,
fine with 2.
2.
All right?
B, an applicant may also specify a particular use that falls under agritourism in addition to those listed in this section. For example, restroom facilities in a variety of formats may be included. And then C, as recommended by the Planning Commission, the language in the packet is, a master planned approach that includes multiple agritourism uses on a farm is encouraged. In order to follow this approach, an approved agritourism master plan is required. Agritourism uses and associated facilities included in an approved master plan shall determine the allowable uses and conditions of use. Applicants proposing multiple agritourism uses shall follow the requirements of section 309.10. Following approval of an agritourism master plan, an applicant may choose the timing to implement agritourism uses approved in the master plan.
All right, other than the, changing it down to 2 acres, does anybody want to change anything in B or C?
Do we want to change the number of farm, dinners?
That's coming up.
We ain't gotten to that one yet.
Okay. I lost it.
Sorry.
All right, so I guess 30903 is fine except to move it to 2 acres.
And then 30904, corn maze. A corn maze is allowable per table 2-1, may have an associated snack shop in accordance with section 30909.
Yeah, I think you leave that because we're going to change to
We're
309.
gonna get there, yeah.
All right,
And then 30905, farm dinner, per your recommendation, the recommendation of the board, it was limited before to twice per calendar quarter, and y'all decided to do it twice per month, not calendar, limited to twice per month.
That's 24 times a year.
Why do we limit it to
it
twice
was
a month?
limited to once a quarter.
I remember that.
For a year, and we went to twice a month. I don't have a problem not having a number there at all. But I also understand where they're coming from.
Talking about for restaurants.
Because you could get into the point where you start doing enough farm dinners that it could turn into a restaurant.
And
So
then
I-
we
so-
have to deal with that.
And, yeah, so I understand the reasoning there, but
What about twice per week then? I mean, because,
I mean, what, yeah, it's an arbitrary number.
Right.
Why
It
do we
is.
have it? I mean, it's just, we've talked about that before.
I think we just don't put a number on it at all, and if it turns into a restaurant,
Then you deal
then
with
it brings to
that
our
when it
attention,
turns
we
into a
find,
That,
we do
that's
whatever we
fine.
do then.
If we want to go that route, that's fine. I'll mention something that's come up recently. For like for alcohol permits, when you have those, your business has to, if your business is closed for a period of 6 months, you lose your alcohol permit, period. That's from the state, that's all the way down. But if you opened up once a week, you're good. Once a week, if you open up once a week. So that, I'm just trying to quantify this a little bit to let y'all know there are some rules out there for that kind of stuff. But I'm fine if you don't want to put a number, or if you want to do twice a month, 3 times a month, 4 times a month, I don't care.
Well, if you don't put a number, do you even need the section?
No, you would not. Strike the section altogether.
So
It's
309,
gonna be in your master plan.
30905 would be stricken.
And then everything else will be renumbered accordingly, if that's what y'all decide to do. Is that
No.
your consensus, is to remove the number altogether or the section altogether?
Susan, Bobby?
I'm good with it.
And then if it turns into a restaurant, then we'll deal with that.
Farm tour educational, education farm tours include tour on a working sustainable farm for the purpose of providing learning experiences about life on a farm. Examples include, but are not limited to, a walking tour, a self-driving tour, or a riding tour on a wagon or hayride. And then B, a snack shop may be included as an accessory use in accordance with section 309.09.
We'll get to that.
Again, we'll get to that.
I think 06 is probably fine.
Festival, 30907, festival agricultural / educational, which is not in your thing. The preamble says an event which centers on and celebrates some unique aspect of the community such as strawberry, blueberry, or butterfly festival, but does not include carnivals. And then A, festival duration is limited to 3 days. B, limited to 3 festivals per calendar year on the same parcel and/or under the same ownership / applicant person or entity.
Stop a second, please. So that I get the idea about the, 3 days, you don't want to have Woodstock or whatever. You want to limit the duration, but why do you want to limit the number of festivals? If they're able to come up with more festivals, then more power to them, as long as it still meets the needs of accessory, it still qualifies as an accessory venue, right? So why do we want to limit that?
Well, it says
Brian?
here that you'd also need
Language from Unicode.
and it says you would also need a special use permit, it says for that as well.
I thought we'd probably take that limitation out.
I think take the number off.
Now, I have a question though, in
But I
changing
don't
that
think we'll let 'em have
number,
carnivals.
in changing that number, does that affect, if they need a special use permit, do they just need it for one time and then they can have festivals? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, the
Okay.
special use permit goes on for that.
So 309,
So it's about
30907 as it stands,
You
and
want to be careful because, some of these people aren't going to own this land forever, some of them will, but when somebody else comes in and sees, oh, I get to have festivals every weekend, they're going to put it to it, buddy.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, because some of us not gonna be here forever either.
That's true.
I mean, people, when that happens, I might not be on this earth.
But now if it comes if in your scenario, then somebody buys a property, can they say, well, no, I bought this property because of the existing conditions, now you're trying to change conditions?
No,
Could
those
they-
conditions go with that,
Okay, so
yes.
they'd be forced to comply with the current conditions.
so you're talking about striking the number of festivals per calendar year altogether? Is that what I
Little
heard?
b's.
Would be B,
B would come out,
Right.
okay?
which is currently 309.07B.
Okay.
And then C reads, a special use permit shall be required in accordance with Article 11, procedures and permits. In addition, the following shall be included in the application. And it talks about detailed operational plan shall be included with the special use permit application and shall state the following: type of festival, type and number of vendors, hours of operation, scaled drawings showing the location of the event and parking areas, and any other pertinent information.
Yeah, I think you probably need to leave that in.
Yes.
309.08, retail sales of seasonal products. A, retail sales of seasonal items including but not limited to pumpkin patches and Christmas tree farms may be included in agritourism uses in accordance with section 343 and shall be allowed as set forth in table 2-1 in article 2 of this development code.
Okay, so that did come up in discussion tonight. I don't really have a dog in that fight, but should it be limited to seasonal items? That's the purpose
No,
of that.
that's what.
It just says it can be included in
it just says
agritourism.
Can be included.
Okay, so it's not limiting anything?
It says, but not limited to.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, including but not limited to.
Well, why is it even there then? If it's not limiting anything, what's the purpose of it?
Go back to your original ordinance.
I'm sorry?
A lot of this stuff came from the original ordinance.
30908, what's the purpose of it now, as it exists?
You better just move your chair up here, Brian.
If somebody wanted to do pumpkin patches or Christmas tree farms, then it's fine. They can add that under their agritourism, under their master plan if they wanted to, but there's no, this is just a passover from something of
If
years
that
ago.
if 30908 goes away, does it change anything?
I don't, most of the Christmas tree farms we don't have any Christmas tree farms in the county. We have
we might.
where people
Yeah, we
want
might.
to sell Christmas trees, and they'll do it at Billy's, or, I don't even know if he's doing it anymore, but at different places, commercial places, then we don't have a problem with that, but we did in the past, we had somebody that wanted to, they had a small farm, it was about 10 acres, and they had ordered a bunch of Christmas trees, I say a bunch, it was only a couple of hundred, but that's what they did, and so they were just required to get a business license.
Okay, I don't wanna be, I just don't understand the purpose of it, why it's there, but
This is a rollover, I'm just saying.
It's really asserting a right.
It's not a restriction.
This is what else, sorry?
It's establishing a right.
Okay.
You can sell.
Yeah, it's just letting you know that you can do it. That's all it's saying. It's not limiting you to anything. It's actually adding to that you can do this.
well, why don't you just, if that's the case, just simplify it and say you can do sales.
Well, you can't just say do sales, because if you start selling more than just Christmas trees or pumpkins, and I'm selling T-shirts and used cars, now I'm a commercial. I mean, that's where this is put in there, that if you want to do this as part of your farm, then that's fine. That's what it's getting to.
I get the cars, but you may wanna sell farm T-shirts or Christmas mugs or.
Well, and that's fine. If you wanted to do, and that's the reason you have your farmer's market, or you have, if that was in the master plan, that you want to sell some retail in a little retail shop, fine.
Seasonal items, like it says.
But you have to be careful, because you are starting to create commercial items on agricultural use land. That's what you gotta be careful of. That's the whole purpose here. Okay? So keep it? Okay, we'll keep it.
I think we'll end up revisiting it, but probably keep it right now.
Well, and I can assure you.
Cause I agree that we don't need to do cars, but I think they ought to be able to sell
Well, I think cars
mugs
is
or
extreme.
whatever.
Yeah, so what if it's, stuff to do with the location, just saying, hey, this is a shirt of like 219, if they had a, agritourism location out there off 219, it's 219 pumpkin patch, whatever, they wanna sell T-shirts saying 219 pumpkin patch, or, to me, that's not seasonal if you do, like, this is 219, agritourism, if they wanna come up with shirts like that, just saying hypotheticals. But
Again, you do a
that's not
small shop
seasonal,
there, and you put it on your master plan, and you have at it.
Okay, but that's not.
Otherwise,
that's
you
not-
would
that
need to
doesn't
have
fall
a
under
commercial
seasonal,
location to
right?
sell that kind of stuff.
That don't fall under seasonal though, right?
What's that?
That doesn't fall under seasonal though, right?
That's
No,
the
I
key
don't,
word,
I don't,
seasonal.
Yeah.
this is only referring to seasonal such as pumpkins and Christmas trees. It's giving you the option to do that.
Okay, so you could resell, say for instance, like somebody else
If
made a
you wanted,
product in the county. and
like
you
he
wanted
mentioned
to
earlier, if
resell
I
that,
wanted to sell something that wasn't seasonal, can I? Yes, I think you can.
like local honey or something, if
Yes.
you wanted to sell that.
Sure. But you just have
But
to
it
be
doesn't-
careful.
but,
Put it on
yeah,
your
I
master
don't
plan,
wanna-
we're good.
But it doesn't say that. Honey's not seasonal?
Well, that's because
As it
we
relates to
have it
Christmas trees.
situated where if it ain't in there, we say no. So if you wanted
Alright.
to say that, then
We don't
I
mess
don't
with
wanna-
honey,
Figure
we
out
don't
how
mess
to
with
change
honey
it.
either.
Honey is seasonal,
Right.
anyway,
Honey is seasonal
Right,
Not, okay.
that's like you didn't produce it.
when you harvest it.
when you
Yeah,
harvest it,
but
yeah.
it's not tied to Christmas or to pumpkins.
It's tied to
This
agricultural
implies it's
season.
tied to the season that we're dealing with. But
Right.
all right, so what are we doing on 3098? Leave, move, leave it, come back to it later. 'Cause we'll probably come back to it some other time.
I said leave it, put an asterisk, we can revisit.
All right,
Okay.
leave it, let's go ahead.
All right, here's the big one. 30909, snack shop. A, Snack shops are permitted as a temporary accessory use to the following uses.
Scratch temporary.
I think temporary needs to come out.
Yep, take
Okay,
temporary out.
that's all we have to do, and just keep it as an
Hold on.
accessory use.
Temporary out.
You want me to read this, or you got it?
No, I got it.
Okay.
1, corn maze, 2, farmer's market, 3, farm tours educational, 4, pumpkin patch, 5, or as otherwise specified in this development code.
Okay, take temporary out, and now go to the next one.
Okay, B,
That's B.
standard,
Yes.
Yes.
All right,
B.
so it's an accessory building.
standards for temporary snack shop structure and/or use.
Take temporary out.
Temporary out as well.
A temporary structure shall not exceed 200 square feet.
Take temporary out. Temporary just needs to come out altogether.
Got it.
In 3099.
Yep.
Now, if it's no longer temporary, is there a square footage? Is there a square footage?
It'll depend on what it's being used for. If it's used for storage,
Well, it says here not to exceed 200 feet. You're talking about stack shop, that's
That
all we're
says
talking
temporary.
about.
if it's just snack shop, then it's gonna need to be,
200 feet?
no, it doesn't,
Or does that no longer apply
I
if
mean-
it's not temporary?
you could keep it at 200, or you can make it a little bit bigger. I don't see a problem
Well, it
making it a
says shall
little
not
bit bigger.
exceed,
I
so,
think you change 200, 400 square feet and move on.
That's fine, because you're gonna have to get a building permit for it anyway.
Right, exactly.
well, I'm
so
just
change
saying
it.
it says not to exceed, so that
We
does
changed
put
that
a
from 2 to
limitation
4.
on it.
2 to
So
4,
2 to 4.
Under roof,
3099.
under roof.
B.
under roof,
B1 is now a structure not to exceed 400 square feet.
under roof.
Under roof,
Oh, under roof.
yep. All right, next one.
2, no electrical service and/or no water service.
Scratch in its
Scratch
entirety.
that all out.
Right.
That's completely gone.
Okay. And 3, hours of operation must mirror hours of operation of principal
Need
use.
to keep it.
Yeah,
And then number 5 should be taken away completely.
read 5 out.
Well,
Sorry.
4,
Yeah,
structure
well, it
must be
won't- if it's a
located off
permanent
the right of
structure,
way
then
should
it
be
won't be
fine. And then 5, structure must be removed, so 5 goes away. Scratch 5. That makes sense.
Okay,
So scratch 5,
Scratch
Yeah.
5.
keep 4.
And then 30910, wait, 30910, 309.10, application requirements. A, special use permit is required. Approval of a special use permit allows the property owner to use the property for the agritourism-related uses listed above or similar uses approved by the Board of Commissioners, and in parentheses, may or may not be specified. And then it says B, see section 1106. We changed that
That's the process.
to 02
Yes.
in Article 11 for all application requirements for agritourism uses.
So let me ask you this. I keep thinking about this snack shop in itself. Should snack shop be snack shop or concessions? What's the difference in that definition?
nothing,
There's not really,
probably nothing.
yeah, we changed, yeah, it's kind of morphed, I
You
guess.
could just put in there snack shop /
Because see, here's the thing, when you do a snack shop, you're, I mean,
It's
and,
really
and the
concessions,
health
too.
department's gonna look at this as well. You do prepackaged foods, they're not gonna be too concerned. You know, like nuts and,
Right.
you know, chips and
Concessions would
cokes
be
and
like
stuff.
hot dogs on a
But you start
spinning thing or
cooking
whatever.
stuff, and they will definitely be involved.
But if you cook stuff, they're gonna have to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why don't we say snack shop,
I think
snack
you do
shop?
snack shop /
slash
concession.
That's
concessions?
fine.
Move, there you go.
Snack shop /
Slash
concession.
Right.
Everywhere you see snack shop, put / concession.
So if it shows up in a table, you'd also change that.
That'd be correct.
I just wanna cover both
Yeah. All right,
varieties.
any more? Got another?
That is
Is it really
all
the
of
same thing?
309 in its entirety.
All right.
Cooking popcorn.
Greg, you good with that? Okay. Yep.
Are we good with all the other changes as well?
Well, we ain't made a motion yet, do we? All right, so we still need to have a motion to approve all the changes that are supposed to be changed because the state decided to make all their changes that we have to change. So we need a motion, so, to do all this.
And the changes that you're basically looking at right now are the proposed changes to Articles. I'm just making sure do the articles run along with the numbers 309, 3 article, would be 3, okay. So it would be Articles 2, 4, 5, 11, and 12,
And 3.
and with the discussed changes.
Well, 3.
And 3, but with the discussed changes. Because we have more than one change.
All right. So I will make the motion that we approve all of the text amendments to the Unified Development Codes, including Articles 2, 4, 5, 11, and 12, and all the discussed changes of Article 3. Even though I'm opposed to the codes as a whole, I make that motion to do this.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion? All in favor? All right. That has been approved. All right, and I know everybody's wanting to get out of here, but we've got to go back to item number 5. We have to go back to item number 5. Were you able to get the county attorney on the phone? All right, item number 5, if y'all look, we're gonna turn this over to the county attorney. It is about the, business part. Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it's great to be with y'all tonight. As you can see from your agenda packet, this is just the final action needed by the Board of Commissioners to convey the 35-acre parcel of a 97.81 acre parcel in land lots 169 and 170, the 5th District, the city of West Point, Harris County, Georgia, from Harris County to the Development Authority. What does that mean? This is the property that, as you know, the county is transferring to the Development Authority so it can then do the development project with Daysol that this board previously approved by a memorandum of understanding. A motion and vote is needed to authorize the necessary signatures.
All right, I will make the motion to approve the conveyance and transfer of the 35-acre parcel to the Development Authority of Harris County with the authorization of all signatures that may be required.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, that motion carries. Mr. County Attorney, do you have anything else?
I do not, unless you have any questions for me.
Does anyone have any questions for the county attorney? Does anyone have any reason to go into executive session, Mr. County Attorney?
Absolutely not.
All right. No need for executive session. I make the motion, we adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you, Russell.
Thanks, Russell.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a great day.
You too. Bye.